Alright guys, I don't normally do this on the channel. I usually have my fancy camera and all this set up, and you can see the Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport right behind me here. But we are in the hills of California, and as you can see, we are facing some inclement weather. So my fancy gear is not doing so well out here. And neither is the sound. But I still wanted to bring you guys as many versions of the Taco as I could while I'm in California with the Taco. So what follows is a very kind of raw and real quick preview of the Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport. Now, like always, let's talk about the styling. Let's talk about the styling of the Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport. Well, the new Taco looks pretty great, okay? That sort of scaled down Tundra styling. I talked about this in the last video where I did the preview of the TRD off-road. I think the new Toyota Tacoma is a pretty handsome looking small pickup truck as it starts to rain. See, this is why we're doing it this way, okay? So I appreciate the way the Taco looks, and I think it's sport trim with the sort of multicolored interior. I'll show you guys that in a second. This thing is a very handsome light-duty truck. Now, underneath the hood of this Tacoma with the 8-speed automatic transmission is the iForce engine. So 278 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque. And yes, we're in full-on California rain. Who would have guessed it? California rain. Also, an entire convoy of traffic that just decided to come by the exact moment I was filming this video. But we are embracing the rawness of California because we're in a Tacoma, and Tacoma don't care. So how does 317 pound-feet of torque feel in the canyons? Well, let me show you. All right, quickly, we're in less than ideal conditions with a GoPro that's dying, and I'm behind the wheel of the Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport two-wheel drive out on Mulholland in Malibu. And so mainly, what's the difference between this and the TRD, the Tacoma SR that I just drove? Well, that had the leaf spring rear suspension. This has the multilink coil spring rear suspension, and of course it's two-wheel drive. So how does it compare? Well, I could feel, you know, some of your vibration from having an unladen pickup truck in the back, but the ride is noticeably kind of firmer and sportier. The body feels definitely more controlled than that little SR did, especially here in the canyons. I also feel like the steering might be slightly different, maybe slightly sharper right off the bat. Definitely not as lazy. It feels a little bit more lively and tossable. Not that this is a sports car, but one of the big differences here is that SR had the sort of base 228 horsepower engine. This has the base iForce engine, so 278 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque, and that's immediately noticeable. This 8-speed automatic is so much more responsive and intelligent up here in these conditions. I mean, it just makes so much more sense than the old model did. But this is a very pleasant car or truck to drive, considering that I'm in the canyons on Mulholland in Malibu, California, in a freaking Toyota Tacoma in the wet. Like, the weather conditions have rapidly deteriorated this afternoon, and so we're making the best of it, okay? But driving this after driving the current gen Tacoma up here, like, we just went over like a, you know, kind of serious dip right there, and this thing kind of returns to normal. It feels like a lot firmer and sportier. Now, it is, because it's firmer, it is a little bit more, I don't know, there's a little bit more movement, a little bit more jitters around here. Not jitters like, you know, through the structure, jitters like the suspension keeping up with this imperfect pavement because we're on these cracked canyon roads. But I would expect that in a firmly sprung vehicle, especially a truck or SUV. So that's not surprising. The steering accuracy, the weight is nice. It's light, but it's not like stupid light, you know? It feels really good. Like, this is a fun little truck to wheel around, although I probably would be careful up here, make sure the back end doesn't get squirrely since you don't have anything holding it down and it's two-wheel drive. These are not the conditions that I think are really great for something like this, but Yeah, this is a so much more refined and satisfying vehicle. And also, this has the digital gauge cluster. This thing's got some options in it, right? So I've got heated seats. I got the 14-inch. The 14-inch infotainment screen in the freaking Tacoma looks ginormous. It feels gigantic in this thing. And the digital gauge cluster looks nice. This just feels light years ahead of the current gen, this new Tacoma. So hopefully that's translating some on camera. Like I said, the day is sort of deteriorating. Nobody's fault, just the weather's. We're gonna get as much content as we can, but this thing is a satisfying truck to drive in the canyons. As satisfying as a truck can be. Let's put it that way. Okay, so we're in the interior of the Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport because it's pouring rain in California. So I don't know if you can see California out the window there, but it's pouring rain in California, and these things don't often happen. So what is the interior like? Well, I am 6'6", and one of the things about the Toyota Tacoma that's always been a bit of a bummer is that it's on the small and uncomfortable side. And what they tried to do to fix that is install incredibly impressive and much better seats in this thing. So these are just like the regular kind of cloth seats, but they are so much more comfortable, and they have lumbar on like every trim. It's just, oh my God, it's so appreciated, okay? Not to mention, I like this little sassy blue interior that this thing has going on in sport mode, so that's also appreciated. And the material quality, the design, the layout, it just looks so much better than it did in the old Tacomas. The old Tacomas, I drove one up here. I was with Isaac from Team 4Runner, and we drove one of the old previous gen Tacomas up, and we were both remarking about it's just like, you know, you kind of forget, because it has that reputation for reliability and quality, you forget that it's just this sort of like functional plastic paradise. And this, yes, it's still a plastic paradise, it's a truck, but this is just such a much nicer place to be. Oh, and I won't do it because I already did it in the TRD off-road model, but as you can see, I've got the quad cab with the 5-foot bed. So, you know, kind of, I would say one of the most popular versions of something like the Toyota Tacoma. And I'm 6'6", and I've got the seat set perfectly comfortably for me. Great, awesome. But can I sit behind myself? No, no way, no how. Could a small person sit behind me? It'd be tough, okay? Not a lot of space back there. But people went off in the comments, especially on my TikTok, where they were like, blah, 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 the Toyota Tacoma isn't big enough. See, it's not big enough. And I'm like, did you miss the part where I said I'm 6'6"? I'm taller than like 99% of American men. Well, I guess it would be men in general, wouldn't it? But like, that's not a brag. It's definitely a burden sometimes, okay? Sorry, you know, tall people, short people, whatever, but like I get canceled over saying I'm taller than people. But yeah, so I'm 6'6" sitting up here, and yeah, you would expect me to be able to sit behind myself in a truck, right? That's smaller than a full size. Full size is fine. So I don't know why people were so bent out of shape about that, but I think the rear seat space is like fine for a light duty pickup. Now, like I always say, should you buy the Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport? Well, I think it depends on what you want out of a light-duty pickup truck. If you don't care about four-wheel drive and you just want a truck to take you from point A to B, and you might put stuff in the back, and you want it to have, you know, a little bit of a firmer suspension along with your 317 pound-feet of torque, well, then the Toyota Tacoma makes a lot of sense, right? Get a couple nice options on it. This thing becomes a very nice truck. I swear, how am I in the mountains of California and it suddenly became like rush hour in addition to the rain? This is probably the most low-tech video we've ever put on the channel, all right? But hey, we're making it happen out here in California. This is absolutely gorgeous, despite the fact that we're getting poured on. So should you buy one? I think if you're honest about your truck buying needs, like take me, for example. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So do I go off-roading a lot? No. I do have access to off-roading, though, and I'd prefer a truck, if I got one, to have four-wheel drive. Really like that Trail Hunter, by the way. But a lot of people that live around me don't go off-roading, and they don't need all of those off-road goodies. So something like this might be perfectly good, perfectly capable, and it would fulfill your needs, and it looks kind of cool, and it's, you know, a decent-looking Tacoma, and hopefully has that Tacoma quality. I guess we'll find out in 5 to 10 years. So if you found this video somewhat useful, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, stick around for more rainy California reviews with traffic passing by, and I'll see you in the next one.